You're listening to the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. This episode is titled, Your Life is Your Ultimate Guru. Now, I go a couple of different places in this episode, but basically I'll talk about a lot of things in this episode. But what is your life teaching you about you? Because if you want to know yourself better, meaning your ego self, look at your external life, and all of your answers are right there. So if you'd like to explore a little deeper, keep listening.
Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here.
You know, in this episode, every episode recently, some earlier I had agendas and, I want to cover all these things about transformation and the mind and brain and all that, and spirituality, which we'll get back into that. And this episode just kind of came together as a result of some things I'll talk about in a minute. But I want to share a thought with you, is that many of you are here under a false illusion. The illusion that you have, and the reason that you're here, is because you want to create something. And you want to have something more of something else in life. What I want to share with you is getting what you want in life is really, really easy, which I'll talk about that a little later in the episode. See, getting what you want in life is not about getting what you want in life. Getting what you want in life is easy when you let go of what holds you back from having what you want. And so most of us always think, I want to get this and I want to get that and I want money and relationships. Well, it's not that those things are unavailable to you. It's that you make them unavailable to you. The truth is this, is you can have anything you want, literally. Well, for the most part, I don't know that you could have a space shuttle, but you know what I mean, right? You can have anything you want as soon as you let go of what's keeping you from having what you want. And the number one thing, consider this, because this is airtight. The number one thing that prevents you from having everything you want is fear. I read a phrase one time. I'm sure many of you have probably read it. And it said, everything that you want is on the other side of fear. And so many of you, been there, done that. So many of you get into so much fear all day long, and you have habituated to fear that when you go into fear, you go into autopilot, and you don't even know that you're going into fear. You can viscerally experience it in your body, and when you're in fear, but there's no trigger for most of us to know that, oops, okay, I'm about to go into fear, which is brain-based, yet I'm making a conscious choice to stay in fear. And many people, when they get into fear, they stay into it, they stay in it. And I'm kind of stumbling my words. I'm tired. It's been a long couple of days. People, they get into fear and they stumble in it and they stay there for days and weeks and sometimes even years. A thought came up earlier today as I was putting this entire episode together, and I've kind of tossed quite a bit in here, and we'll just see where it goes. And you might like it, you might not like it, I don't know. But a recent quote came up, and it's one that I was on a podcast, Think and Grow Rich podcast recently. And the host of the podcast, Robin, asked me about a quote that I'd mentioned before. And it's a James Allen quote. And James Allen wrote, "As a man thinketh," I believe back in the 1860s or 70s. And that quote goes like this, part of the quote: "Mind is the master power that molds and makes. Man is mind, and evermore he takes. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass that his environment is just his looking glass." Now, let's go back to the title of this episode. Your life is your ultimate guru. Your life and what you have in your external world is your looking glass for who you are at a core identity level. Completely off topic. I was just kind of giggling at this a little earlier. For the most part, I want to thank most of you. For the most part, we get really positive, feedback and comments on the podcast. And then we get people trying to impress their reality on me, telling me how I should be, what I should say, what I should do, what I shouldn't say, blah, 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 based upon their models of reality. And the truth is this: I'm going to do what I want to do because I know where I hit, meaning the sweet spot with the most amount of people. But I was just laughing because somebody, wrote in a while back, and they were chastising me for using this James Allen quote. And they said, you shouldn't, and they didn't give me any context, but they're like, you shouldn't be using a man as an example. You should be using a woman. Okay. So I went today and I looked and I found this quote by a woman that I've known her for many years. And her name is Helen Blavatsky, Madame Blavatsky. And her quote is this, is the universe, let me start over. The universe is worked and guided from within outwards. The universe is worked and guided from within outwards. Meaning that inside out. And that goes back to the title of the podcast, Inside Out. And your life is your guru. And if you're not getting what you want in your external world, if you're not getting it, it means that you're not putting that out there because the universe is being a guru saying, hey, kid, pay attention. Let me show you what you're doing. But here's what so many people don't do is they don't really stop and recognize that. They don't stop and recognize that you, wherever you are right now listening, every one of you, whether you have $1 million in the bank or you're on the verge of your third divorce, or you're well or you're not well, or whatever it is, you're the creator. You're the creator of every single thing in your life. And when you sit with that, just sit with that for a little bit. When you look at your life is one big reflection. Now, just sit with that. Your life is a reflection of you, and it's being the guru teaching you this, but yet most of us miss it because we're too busy out in la mental land. It's not me, it's this, it's that, it's blah, blah, all these kind of things. And we're missing that the most powerful guru is go to the bathroom and look in the mirror. Your guru's not in the bathroom. Go to unless you're in there looking in the mirror. Well, maybe your guru could be. I mean, I don't know what your profession is. But anyway, you're the guru. And so many people look to external people to be their guru and to be their leader and to be all these kind of things when your life every single day is constantly giving you feedback. You have a feedback loop in your life every single day. And here's the beautiful thing is when you look at your life, if you have what you want in life and you're enjoying everything you have, then guess what? Your feedback loop is telling you, okay, you're on the right track. And if you don't have what you want, and most people don't have what they want, but also, I'm not going to go here in this episode, many people think that having things will make them happy, when having things won't make you happy. That's just your interpretation of what's going to make you happy. But the truth is this, is so many things we think we want, and then we don't have it, and we never really are fully responsible for recognizing that we're the one that created a lack of it because of some way that we're being, or something inside of ourselves. So this particular episode has been in the works mentally for a couple of weeks. And I was lying in bed one morning and I was going through Instagram. I mean, so when I air quote wake up in the morning, I spend the first hour doing mental work, self-hypnosis, and then several, let's just call them spiritual exercises. And it takes me about an hour. And then I engage in the world. And I picked up my phone and I was looking at Instagram, and there was this little video of this lion attacking a giraffe, obviously out in the wild. And what happened was this lion went up and jumped up and tried to I guess, grab the giraffe around the level of the giraffe's neck, from where the neck comes out of the body. And what happened is this giraffe was at a full run, and the lion literally, this giraffe was moving so fast that the lion bounced off the giraffe, and the giraffe kept running. Now, what happened also in the video is the lion got hurt because as the giraffe was running, it also stomped on the lion. Now, of course, neither animal is intending to cause anything that happened. They're simply, operating from instinct and survival. And what came to me is what I want to share here is your survival is up to you. Now, for most of us, we're not in survival mode. We're not. I mean, we have food and we have, supermarkets, and we have life conveniences. We're not in survival mode. But teaching persuasion and influence for many years, there was a phrase that I used to hear a lot from salespeople, and people would say, I'm in commissioned sales, and basically I don't get paid if I don't sell. And the phrase is you eat what you kill, meaning if you don't kill anything, you don't eat. And it just brought me back to the video of the lion and the giraffe, because obviously that lion, at least from that giraffe, did not eat that day. As a matter of fact, the lion probably ran off licking his wounds, going, holy cow, what happened to me? The little bird spinning around, its lion head and everything, because, the giraffe really just kind of piled over and ran over the lion. But take that concept, and let's not look at survival, but your life. Your life is up to you. Now consider that. Because we live in a culture, and it's American, what I'm going to share with you, but I've mentioned it before, but it's all over the world. Let's talk about first world countries. In the United States, 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. When you think about that, that is mind-blowing. That is staggering. 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And I look out in the world and I'm like, how is this? And by the way, if you've listened for any amount of time, you know that there's been times in my life I've been dead broke. Everything I'm saying to you applies to me, because if I didn't learn these lessons and it didn't apply to me, I wouldn't be able to share with you. But I'm like, how is it possible? There's so much opportunity in the world with the internet. Right now, this podcast, we couldn't have done this 20 years ago. And I can reach tons of people all over the world with a podcast. It wasn't available years ago. You have so many tools available to you. But where I'm going here, let me reel it back in a little bit, is that everything that you have in your life, you have it because you're responsible. But I want to go somewhere else with responsibility in a bit. You're responsible. And you don't have it because you're irresponsible. And I know we don't think about it in that way, but that's the truth. If you don't have something that you think you want, It's because you're irresponsible for creating it. Because many people will hope and wish and want and pray, but you know what? Here's something they won't do. Okay, this thought's coming together because again, I don't write these out as I go. Okay, many people will hope and wish and want and pray for what they want in life. But what they won't do, the number one thing they won't do, which is what I started this podcast about, is they won't let go of their fear that keeps them from what they want. And the first thing you have to do, one of the first things you have to do, is let go of your fear. Because remember when I started this episode, I said that life is not about getting more, it's about letting go. Letting go of what holds you from what you want. And what holds you from what you want is your fear. And you have your life as your ultimate guru showing that to you right in the mirror or right in your face. But yet, because you want to hold on to the fear, that fear keeps you trapped exactly where you are in the job, in the relationship. And I see a lot of that in relationships. People are trapped in their relationships. Why? Because they're afraid to leave. So people are trapped in life because of the fear. And until you let that go, I'm going to make you a promise. Until you let that go, nothing on the other side of that fear will change for you. And, like I said earlier, I had no idea where this episode's going to go. Sometimes I just put on a mic and I'm like, okay, I'm going to hope for the best. Let's just see where it goes. And when I say hope for the best, I mean, I just don't have any attachment because when I do these, I've got to send them to my team and my team's on deadlines. And so no matter whether I like the podcast or I don't, it's still got to go out the door. And I'm not an over-perfectionist, obviously, because I'm sniffling on this episode and, different things. And anyway, I'm not even going to go there. But it just has to roll. So we'll see what happens. But I want you to think back to earlier podcast episodes if you've been with me for any amount of time. And one of the first probably 5 episodes is I talked about your identity. And so many people have said, Jim, what's my identity? How do I know what my identity is? That's easy. Your ultimate guru, your life, is reflecting your identity back to you and what you have in the world. What I tell people is, your bank account is your beliefs, which come from your identity, your beliefs objectified. So if you want to know what your identity is, that's really easy. Your bank statements, they're telling you your identity. Your relationships are telling you your identity. Your health is telling you your identity. What you have in life, what you don't have in life, are telling you your identity. So your guru is being a really good guru, and it costs you nothing to have this guru. But as we're talking about fear, what it also takes is it takes the courage. So many people are lacking in courage, and I've been there. I mean, definitely. And I'm not saying I'm some superhero or any of that. I mean, we all have things we're working on and dealing with and things that are happening in life. But I do know that fear is not my friend. Unless I'm standing at the edge of a 50-story building of no net and, no parachute. Otherwise, and fear is brain-based. But it's not your friend. Because so many things that we fear are things that we make up in our mind. Now, when I say brain-based, it's a survival mechanism. I've covered that before. And the reality for everyone listening is you're not in survival mode. I mean, you're not being chased by this lion I'm talking about, or you're not being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. All these kind of things that put people in fear are nothing more than, fear, which is brain-based, but they're not real threats. They're illusions. And then people get caught up in the illusion. And then they're afraid to get out of the illusion. So let's talk about some simple steps here, okay? We'll keep this episode really simple. One of the first things that you have to do to create change in your life, and I'm not even talking about transformation, I'm just talking about change right now. One of the first things you have to do is you got to decide. You got to decide. You have to make a choice about, am I going to live my life this way tomorrow, or am I going to choose and decide on something different? I don't watch a lot of TV, but sometimes it's energetically, it's been very rough recently, and I'm just scrolling through the channels a couple of days ago. It was Piers Morgan, the journalist guy, and he was interviewing women that had been convicted of doing very heinous crimes, murders, and there was this girl, and she in the show, and she was in prison, and she was 30 years old. She had her parents murdered, and not only that, her father survived, but she also had her two younger brothers murdered. And Piers was asking her questions, and she said, and it was very wise, she goes, the most important thing that people can learn is you've got to be careful with your choices. And I take that back to deciding, and I've done an entire episode on choice, or episodes, because I say life is choice. So you have to look at also, how does choice come into your decision-making process relative to fear? So do you choose not to do the things that create fear in you? Think about that. So not only are people afraid to choose, they're afraid to choose things that will bring, let me back up here, is humans love comfort zones, okay? And what we know as humans is that we move away from pain to pleasure. And if you're in fear, that's pain, and you want to move away from pain. So therefore, you don't want to do things that are fearful because they're painful. And you're actually hardwired to move from pain to pleasure. Therefore, you stay in pleasure, which is, get this, the pleasure for most of us is short-term pleasure as opposed to long-term pleasure, because we're going to have more long-term unpleasure by staying in the short-term pleasure of not making a decision, because the decision puts us in fear. So if we don't make the decision now, we don't go through the fear, we stay in our short-term comfort zone, which for most of us, and especially financially, puts us in longer-term financial straits and financial dire. But it all comes back to fear. And as I was thinking about this episode, I was looking, different things, going through notes, just kind of like, what do I want to talk about this week? And there was a phrase by Don Javier, my brother-in-law, just something I pinned down a long time ago. And I've said this in the podcast before, but think about it this way. He said to me, fear is seductive. And you think about that. Because fear entices you. Fear makes it easy for you not to do something, because it's kind of like, I don't even know where I'm going to go with this thought, but it's kind of like, the seductive mistress, or being gender equal here, the seductive mister or seductive man. I mean, seduction is seduction, but fear is seduction because it's seduction relative to the comfort zone. And it keeps you in your comfort zone. And because you stay in the comfort zone, you make no new choices and you never create anything new, even though you're saying you want to create these new things. So I want to read one paragraph of something, and I think I've read it before, probably 30, 40, 50 episodes ago. It's one little passage here, a few sentences. And the person who wrote this said, "When I look, I find that there is no more dreadful disease than fear itself. What is there in life to be feared more than fear itself? Fear paralyzes the very being of a person. Fear destroys the whole capacity for rebellion. Fear makes any change impossible. Fear binds one to the known, and the journey to the unknown is completely stopped. Although whatever is worth knowing and achieving in life is all unknown." So in reading that, I want to share with you here this one line. Go back here. Fear makes any change impossible. So this is what I want to, request this episode. I want you to look to your guru, okay? Your biggest guru, which is you, because life is your guru. What is your guru teaching you about the relationship you have with fear. Consider that. What is your guru, your life, teaching you about the relationship you have with fear? What is your guru, your life, teaching you about whether you make choices or whether you don't make choices? Okay, another thought here, just done a different way, is I know because it's human, you want more in life. You wouldn't be here. But what is your guru, your life, teaching you? Let's go back. What is your guru teaching you about your inability to make choices or to take action because you are in your fear? And then go back to what I said earlier. What I want you to really recognize here, what is your relationship with fear, and how much does fear dominate your life? Because if you were to look at your life, I guarantee this, if you were to look at your life, and as I said earlier in this episode, you probably, I didn't say it this way, but I'm going to say it this way, you probably have so much fear in your life, and you've had it your entire life, therefore, you don't even recognize when you're really at the beginning getting into it, because your fear has become habituated, and that is how you live your life as the complete servant of your fear. So look at your guru and ask yourself, how can I grow and how can I expand to move through the fear from here? Let's go here to wrap up this episode. What I want you to look at is I want you to look at something that is fearful. You're afraid to do it, but it's not all that fearful. You're a little bit afraid of doing it. And for the next 4 weeks, one time a week, I want you to pick something that is a little fearful. Again, I mean, it's not going to paralyze you. It's, it's kind of like, I'm kind of afraid to do that. Pick one thing and do one thing that is in a small way fearful every week. And what you're going to start recognizing is that all these fears that you've gotten into are nothing more than illusions of your mind. And I say pick a small thing. Ideally, I'm one of those people that actually I'll hop right in feet first. So, bring it on. Bring it on. Let's go. I run, I work from the phrase, run with the big dogs or stay at home on the porch. But not everyone's that way. And so if you pick one thing that creates some fear in you, but you can get through it, pick that one thing and do one thing every single week for the next 4 weeks, and recognize at the end of 4 weeks, you're like, whoa, I just did 4 things that scared me that I put off forever that I wouldn't do. Because all I'm wanting you to recognize here, all that I'm wanting you to recognize is that all this fear that is coming back to you in life is simply a reflection of what you're giving life. Okay, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you over, and hopefully you found value in this episode, and I will catch you over on another episode. Bye-bye. I wouldn't have brought James to be with you guys if I didn't know that he could bring great value. I have a tremendous amount of respect for James. He's like family to me, and we spend a lot of personal time together. And what I know about him, and one of the things that I value most about him, professionally speaking, is there are so many charlatans in our industry and so many people that are out for the easy and the quick buck. James has extraordinary, and I mean extraordinary, impeccable integrity, and his integrity is beyond reproach. I have tremendous respect for him. And that being said, he's got a 3-part series coming up. It's a live training starting on June the 17th. And it's called The Rise of the Digital CEO. And even if you don't want to be a digital CEO, that's fine. But if you're in any way, and you don't think of yourself as a digital CEO, if you really want to do well online, you must start thinking of yourself that way. But anyways, I was saying, if you're in business of any kind and you're wanting to grow a business, then whatever you do, mark the date of June the 17th on your calendar and plan to attend this free training. Free means no charge. 3-part training starting on June the 17th. You can also go to my website, jimfortin.com/riseofthedigitalceo.com to register. Again, jimfortin.com/riseofthedigitalceo.com. I can't stress enough, I'm being a little repetitive. I trust him implicitly, or I would never bring him to my podcast or even mention this, because I know in this free training, he's going to blow your mind and bring you extraordinary value and knowledge and wisdom that you can use to start growing your online business. If you're serious about transforming your life from the inside out, I have a free training that you're going to want to listen to, and it's helped tens of thousands of people all around the globe. The thing is, all of my students start here because when you learn to change your thinking, you'll change your life. Because as you already know, life happens from the inside out. The training is called Discover How to Eliminate Fear and Negativity in an Instant. So go to jimfortin.com/eliminate fear and start learning how to transform your life at a deeper level from the inside out.
Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. You know, if you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.